Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by wrestling royalty. On a personal level, her father is one of my all time favorite wrestlers. She is fresh off an appearance off the hit show Dark Side of the Ring. We have the daughter of the legendary Dynamite Kid, the Dynamite Doll, Bronwyn Billington. Bronwyn, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hello. Yes, I'm so happy to be here. This is great.
When I first got in contact with you, I cannot begin to explain how excited I am. I'm such a huge fan of your father's. I have so much respect for what your family has done in this industry, and I would like to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about you a little bit. Before we get into your dad's career, you're doing a lot of work right now, or at least a little bit of work on the independent scene. You're doing some managing for Real Canadian Wrestling. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So we've been, there hasn't been a lot of wrestling right now with COVID going on, but the shows just started back up about 3 weekends ago.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
going to be starting up myself again here really soon. I manage a wrestler named Heavy Metal, and we've been working together for like 5 years. And yeah, the Alberta scene basically. So I'm really
Awesome,
excited to get
awesome.
back in there.
So how did you get involved in the business yourself? Is this something that you've always been interested in, or did you just kind of fall into it?
Yeah, I kind of just fell into it actually. There was a show here and they were having it at the legendary pavilion where Stampede Wrestling really took off the ground, and they had all the Stampede wrestlers families come and just they started off the show just walking around the ring and everyone was waving, and so I was like, okay, I could do that. So it was like, this is Dynamite Kids family, and I was with my daughter and my mom was there as well, and then I stood ringside for the battle royal, and I just had so much fun at that show that I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna come back next month, and I just kept
That's
coming back.
awesome. You got the bug, eh?
Mhm.
That's fantastic. So is this something that you're kind of planning to pursue on a full-time basis? Is it just something that you're having fun with right now?
I'm a mom of two, so definitely not looking for anything full time. It's just part time and for fun. And yeah, whatever I can get out of it, I absolutely will. If it's traveling or, just even local, I'm happy with whatever.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you're not the only person that is keeping the family name alive as well. Maybe one day we could see you managing Tom and Mark Billington Bulldogs.
That's right. Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
had a chance to see a lot of their work as well, or?
Only online just because of
Yeah.
the distance. And I mean, they only sort of just started and then COVID happened. So, of course, there's been like a year and a half now that they haven't been able to train, but they're back in there as well. Shows are starting up in the UK. So, yeah, definitely look forward to continuing to watch them grow.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that they have a real bright future, and the resemblance to your father is scary. Like they look identical.
Yeah, the Billington genes are strong.
Um, all right, so I kind of want to get into a little bit of your childhood because obviously growing up with that legendary Hart family. But before that, I kind of want to ask you a question. If you were talking to maybe some of the younger fans of this generation that might not know a lot about your father's career, or maybe not a whole lot about him in general, like how would you describe him to try to get this generation's fan to check out the Dynamite Kid?
I think that my father was small in stature, but had the most drive more than anyone. And it didn't matter his size. And he really had to fight for his spot in the ring and everything he had because of his size. So he really started that different style of wrestling that no matter how small he was going to do it. So, he combined different styles from the UK, from Mexico, from Japan. And he was really an innovator of that certain style of wrestling. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about my dad that
Yeah,
people
he's the
remember.
influence that he's had on the industry, it cannot be mistaken for sure, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So when did you kind of discover, though, how big of a deal that your dad was and how influential and the mark that he left in the industry? Because you were young, obviously, when he was in his heyday. I think we're about the same age. I'm born in '84, so uh, obviously, I got to see a lot of the real in-ring talents of your dad growing up watching tapes and stuff. When did you realize that he was such a big deal?
I think it was definitely later when the internet got bigger because of course we always knew he was a wrestler and there was wrestling gear around the house and a wrestling ring in our house, but not in our house, but in our backyard. So I was aware that he was a wrestler and he did travel the world, but I don't think I really knew what a stamp he put on the industry until the internet became big in the 2000s, probably. when you're
Mhm.
able to Google your dad's name and multiple things come up. And
Yeah,
people are
that's
like,
gotta be
I
pretty
just Googled
cool.
your dad's name. Like, have you seen this? I'm like, yep.
That's gotta be pretty cool though, for sure. Definitely something to be very proud of, right?
Yeah.
Um, so how about yourself though? Were you a wrestling fan growing up? And what about now? Are you a fan of the current product? Like I know you're in the business, but do you like what you're seeing on TV these days?
So growing up, we were always around wrestling, and as I got a little older, I think I tried to disconnect from it when my dad was injured and stuff like that. So for a while there, I didn't like wrestling
Mm,
because I thought, well, it destroyed my dad's body. So I was kind of, it was like a love hate relationship or in and out of it. But as I said, when I did that show in the early 2000 or late 2000s, it was 2013 when my first show that I did. So at that point I was like, you know what, I can't ignore this anymore. Like this is just a part of my life, so I'm in it, let's do this. But yeah, and I do watch a lot of wrestling. We watch mainly AEW right now.
mm,
That's our promotion that we're all about. I don't have a lot of time to keep up with everything, there's so much out there. I'm enjoying NXT as well.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about Kenny Omega too. That's gonna make Mike my co-host. He's not a Kenny Omega guy, but
No,
we're
my mom loves Kenny Omega.
he's so good. He's so good.
Yeah.
So and I know that you said that you're doing the managing too. Does that mean are we maybe gonna see you throw a snap suplex at some point or what?
I mean, I think you just might.
I know you said AEW. Who are you current for some of your favorites to watch right now? Who impresses you in the ring?
Oh gosh, I mean, I just love Jericho so
Yeah.
much, and Kenny Omega. I really like the Young Bucks right now. I like their heel turn.
Hmm.
Loving them as heels. Um, I like a lot of the females. Britt Baker is doing awesome. Yeah, and Penelope Ford. I'm really happy with a lot of the females. I'm excited about them, like Allie, or sorry, she goes by the Bunny now.
Yeah, it's nice to see them finally kind of getting the ball rolling with the women's division in AEW because I know there's a lot of criticism at the beginning and it's kind of off to a slow start, but I feel
Yeah,
like they're really starting to hit their stride there and showcasing the women now.
yeah. Butcher, Blade, and Bunny. I love them. Yeah, I like a lot of people. I like all of them. It's all good.
That's right. That's the way that us wrestling fans should be, right? We should be enjoying the product. You know, there's so much negativity online, and like if you don't like it, then don't watch it, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, something I'd love to ask you about from your childhood growing up, the famous Sunday Heart family dinners. What was it like going? I'm sure there was a million people there, cats running around. You always hear about it. What are some of your fun memories of being younger and going to the Hart family dinners?
Yeah, so they had this huge mansion up in Calgary, and there was Cadillacs all around. Stu had loved Cadillac cars, and they were just everywhere. They must have had, I don't know, 50 of them or something. And we used to just play in them as kids too, just like pretending to drive them. And there'd be the wrestling ring in the field, and wrestlers would be wrestling or training. And then, of course, the dungeon in the basement. There was always screaming coming from down there, and I was absolutely terrified of those stairs. If you've ever seen it in documentaries, they're like really spiky metal stairs going down that are like just so dangerous. So just going down those stairs, I was like so scared as a kid. And yeah, the dinners were just immaculate. Lots of meat and lots of people. They had a huge table in the living room where all the adults would eat, and then there'd be another table where all the kids would eat. And it was just always a great time. We'd stay up pretty late, and I can remember watching cartoons. Like there'd be a TV with cartoons on, which is like the raccoons. Do you remember that
Oh yeah,
cartoon?
I remember the raccoons.
Certain
Yeah, I
things
love the
just like
raccoons.
bring me back to the Heart House, like the raccoons is one thing.
Oh yeah, I that reminds me of my grandparents' house as well. On the Sunday nights, I'd always see the raccoons on, and then that would
Yeah,
usually be the time we'd have to go home though, and I'd be all
yeah,
sad.
yeah,
Yeah, that's so funny. That must be a Canadian thing, I think, the raccoons.
totally. Well, Sunday night, there you go.
There you go, perfect, right? So while we're talking about Stu and Helen as well, do you have any fun memories or any fun stories I can share? We always hear a lot of Stu Hart stories, but do you have any fun memories with Helen? I feel like that she doesn't get as much of the fun stories out there as Stu does.
Yeah, she was just such a lovely, gentle woman. And she, even though not blood related, totally considered us all like us Billington's family. So she just treated us like gold. And my mom told me like she learned manners from Helen because Helen was very proper. And I think they even took like etiquette classes with Helen. So that's just how like lovely she was, and like because my mom moved here at such a young age, right? She moved here at 15. She left home, and then Helen just really took her under her wing, and she really became a part of the family. So
Oh, that's awesome.
she's
Yeah,
a big
you always hear how warm the Hart family was and how welcoming they were, and I'm so proud being a Canadian hearing that as well because I really think that the Harts are the first family of Canada as far as I'm concerned. So,
they were very welcoming, and yeah, to anyone. You didn't even
and
know.
then while we're still talking about Stu, any fun memories with Stu? Do you have a Stu impersonation? I know a lot of people like to do the Stu
My mom
impersonation.
does the best one. You'll have to get her on here
Oh,
sometime. I
I would love
cannot
that.
do impersonations. I'm awful, so I won't even try. But
Johnny
yeah,
Devine is the best Stu impersonation I've heard so far. We had him on the show, and he was telling some fantastic Stu stories. Yeah, it's
I just saw him on Friday at the Real Canadian Wrestling.
oh nice.
Yeah.
You have to ask him next time to do a Stu impersonation. You close your eyes, and you would think that it would be. He's fantastic at it.
Yeah, I can just remember Stu always like to the very end. They had very it was a big house, so there was a lot of stairs going upstairs to his bedroom. And he to the very end would take those stairs, like never was in a wheelchair or anything like that. So he just kept on giving her, and that's what I really remember about him. He would come down those stairs like backwards. That's how he came down
Mhm.
safely. And I bet you he still went down to the dungeon to the very end.
Oh, of course, and I don't think I would want to be down there, no matter what age Stu was. I think that he
Right.
would still he would still teach you a lesson down there for sure. So obviously a very big family, lots of fantastic talent coming out of that. Do you mind if we do a little bit of just quick word association with some of the wrestlers and some of the family members? I know you're young, you might not have stories about all of them, but just so many fantastic people coming out of the house there.
Sure.
How about with Bruce Hart? You always hear that Bruce was quite the character. Do you have any fun stories with Bruce?
I would say anyone that's grown up in Calgary, he is also a substitute teacher. So anyone that has grown up here, Bruce Hart has been your substitute teacher, and he always wears the wrestling boots that are um, like cowboy boots. So,
Yeah.
anyways, my daughter's in grade 7 or just finished grade 7 this year, and she had texted me that Bruce Hart was her sub, and it was just so funny that day. Oh no, this it was a meme or something going around. Someone sent it to her on Snapchat and said, "If this guy has never subbed you, did you even grow up in Calgary?" And I was just laughing so hard. I'm like, "Yeah,
Oh, that's
that's
awesome.
true."
How about Brian Pillman? I think I saw a picture on your Instagram where you're with Brian Pillman Jr. Do you guys have a rapport as well, or?
Yes, him and I are friends. I can't say that I've ever met his father, but incredible talent, and I'm a super big fan of Junior as well.
How about Jim the Anvil Neidhart?
What a character. Yeah. He's just so funny, and anytime you be around him, very, affectious laugh, and he's just awesome. Very missed.
And another one here that everyone always says great things about, Owen Hart.
Owen Hart, yeah, just the biggest heart in the family. Just such a good dad, such a goofy uncle. He'd always be right down in there playing with the kids.
And then how about another Hart that he's kind of been on the scene lately, and not maybe for the right reasons, but Teddy Hart.
Teddy Hart, love
You have a
Teddy.
lot of you have a lot of interaction with Teddy because you guys probably both be the same age, right?
Yeah, he's a little bit older than me, but yeah, I definitely coming out of high school and kind of trying to figure out your life. I hung out with him a lot, and he was trying to get me into wrestling, and so I've met so many people in the industry from him, and he's kind of in and out of Calgary, but whenever I see him, we're very close, and he always has really positive things to say about me and my mom and my dad. So yeah, he treats us really well.
Well, I know he's a big cat lover, so that goes over well with me. I got my two cats running around all the time. So
So do I. I have two cats as well.
the last name I want to ask you about is someone that I think has been one of the best women's wrestlers in the last 10 years, and that's Natty. Do you have any rapport with Natty at all? Do you talk to Natty?
Yes, I do. I just absolutely love her. She's just so kind and humble and modest, and that's what I love the most about her. Like so hardworking and deserving of all her success, and just a really good role model for all the girls out there and everyone in the family.
I agree with that 100%. And I think that, it's crazy to say this because she's been showcased so well, but I still think that she's always one of the most underrated women's wrestlers of all time. I think from an in ring standpoint, I don't think anybody holds a candle to her.
I know. And one day when she does retire, I'm sure she will be still involved in wrestling however she can be. Like that is just
Mm.
her passion and what she's meant to do.
As the wrestling fan, I really hope that her and TJ keep training people because I just think that the future of wrestling is better with both of those guys helping with the developmental of these.
Exactly. They know what they're doing.
100%. So I'd like to shift gears, and I'd love to talk about Bret Hart a little bit. I know from watching Dark Side, obviously with your mom and Bret's wife or sisters, right? How was Bret with you? He said on more than one occasion that your dad is one of the best he's ever been in the ring with. What was your relationship like with Bret, and are you guys still in contact today?
Yeah. Growing up, I mean, he was like a brother to my mom when Julie and Brett were still married. So, and that's how my mom met my dad, was through Brett, basically, them wrestling together. And Brett was like, no, you can't date Michelle because that's my little sister at that time. Like he was protective like that of her. And then eventually they started dating and sneaking around. But yeah, so they've always had that brother sister relationship. And so he's been a really great uncle to us growing up. And even to my brother, like after my dad has left all these years, he's really more like a father figure for my brother, which is great because
That's really nice.
yeah, every boy needs that, right? So
100%,
and we
100%.
still, yeah, we do still see each other and have a great relationship.
Oh, that's fantastic. I've been really lucky to meet Brett a couple of times myself, and I can't say enough great things about him. And something I want to talk to you about in a little bit is a memorabilia collection that we both share. One of my prized possessions, I was given, or I found the original program from Maple Leaf Gardens Wrestling of Brett's debut
Oh,
in the garden, and it's a full page spread about him. He's named Buddy the Heartthrob in it, I believe. And
wow.
when I asked him about it, without even missing a beat, he remembered everything about that night. He said, I worked Kabuki that night. He was great. And sure enough, you look in the middle of the book and there's the match listing Kabuki. It's the memory he has is fantastic.
And that was WWF at the time.
Yeah, I think it was WW. It might have still been three W's on the time, but it was 1983, I think, February of 83.
Okay,
So
because I knew he was
that's
Cowboy Bret Hart, but
I think he said that Barry Horwoods at the time was going by Hart as his last name. He was going by Barry Hart, and he was he was still sounded upset about it to this day. He said,
yeah,
"Yeah, he said
there
friggin'
could be two hearts.
yeah, friggin' Barry Horwoods stole my name." That's one of my favorite pieces, and I would love to talk to you about the memorabilia in a little bit as well. Um, we can't talk about your dad though without mentioning his tag team partner, the legendary Davy Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. Did you spend a lot of time with Davy growing up as well, or what was your relationship with Davy?
I didn't spend a whole lot of time with him just because they were always on the road. Like they were in Japan and, it was a grueling schedule at that time, or not just Japan, but they were traveling a lot. So when they were home, they just decompressed and kind of went their own ways to be at like their own families. So, but yeah, there was definitely, Sunday dinners and I was super young. So I wish I had more memories, but I'm
Yeah,
really,
I mean, you're 3, 4 years old at the time. You
yeah.
can only handle so much, I guess, right?
Yeah. And then of course, like when we were a bit older, they were living in Florida. So, but I have a really great relationship with his kids now and we're
Oh,
making
perfect.
effort, making
And
more memories now.
we saw him go into the Hall of Fame as well this year, which is pretty awesome. And they mentioned your dad, which is great to hear as well. How was that watching Davey go into the Hall of Fame for you?
It was great. And when Harry mentioned my dad, I got like extremely emotional because I was like, that was really cool because he didn't have to do that. But I appreciate that that was important for him to do as well. So it meant a
Yeah.
lot to me.
And is that something you think that we can see in the future for your dad? Do you think we'll ever see him go into the Hall of Fame?
I sure hope so. I mean, I'm not going to be too upset if it doesn't happen. I just don't want to live my life like that. But it would be great if that would happen.
Yeah, I think for if you take a look at some of the names that are in there, I think the biggest name missing is your dad. I think as far as leaving a legacy on the business, all the people that he's inspired since then, to at least give him an induction, if not the legacy wing, he should be honored at some point by the company.
Yeah, and I think with Davey getting in there, this is only making it easier. So maybe
Mhm.
we'll see the Bulldogs going together. Maybe then after my dad can go in
Oh, that'd be great.
solo
Right?
career.
We'll get the Twitter hashtags going, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So while we're talking about the British Bulldogs, do you have any personal favorite Bulldog matches that you've seen?
I really like. I mean, I love watching the old Stampede Wrestling stuff that is against the Heart Foundation and the
Mm.
British Bulldogs. I know they had a match WrestleMania 3, and I know it's not exactly the greatest match. It was really short. And my dad was injured, but just stuff like just seeing those two teams wrestle each other are my favorites because of all the chemistry. They all trained in Calgary, and they were all brothers. So
I really liked the program that your dad and Davey did in about '89 in Stampede when your dad was the heel and Davey was the baby face and your dad would say, "I made you who you are." I thought that just fantastic microphone work from your dad there.
the Test Tube Baby promo,
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, it's some really hidden gems from that time period in your dad's career, you know?
That's true. I do need to go back and watch more Stampede.
Yeah, that's been my one of my favorite parts about preparing for speaking to you is I've gone back and watched a lot of this stuff, watching your dad work Owen in the no holds barred match, all these promos with him and Chris Benoit together and Brian Pillman. I didn't even know that they had all interacted. So
Right?
I
That's
was freaking out watching that. I was really happy.
Now, do you watch that on the network? Is that how you watch all
I
those?
found that on YouTube actually.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I
yeah,
just
now it's becoming easier to find these matches again. So that's why I want to go back and
Yeah, there's a lot of really nice older Stampede stuff on YouTube.
yeah,
That's where I found a lot of my stuff. So I'll send you a couple of links maybe when we finish up.
yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So something that you did mention in the Dark Side documentary, and I'd love to talk to you a little bit. Is the amount of time that you got to spend with the Macho Man and Elizabeth. What was it like? Hanging out with them. Why do you think they were so drawn to you?
So I think because they didn't have kids of their own, and Macho Man said I was just the prettiest little girl. Like I had really big, beautiful eyes, and he always commented on that. So I think that if they had their own daughter or something, they kind of wish she would look like me. Or that sounds silly, but they just thought I was the cutest little girl. My mom always had me dressed to the nines. Like my hair was all crimped. It was the '80s, so always need a fancy dress. So I just fit in with them, all the sequins and
That's it. Do you have any fun stories or just fun memories of being around Elizabeth and Macho at all? Or
I just remember taking photos backstage, and I have those photos. I was really young, and I look like I'm pretty comfy with them. I'm just like right in between them backstage, and Macho Man has his cape on and glasses on, so he's probably about to go out for his match. That's pretty cool. But
yeah,
I
that's
remember
super
that they
cool.
used to mail me birthday cards, even like they would send me
Oh
birthday
wow.
cards, with money in it. So yeah, they really liked having us kids around. Like Brett's kids would be backstage with them too, and they just maybe Miss Elizabeth really wanted to be a mom, and so we were always around.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice. The backstage scene, especially in that time period, was crazy. There's dogs and birds and
Yeah.
all this stuff. You got Andre the Giant back there, snakes. Do you have any fun, memories of just playing around backstage or any other wrestlers that were really nice to you that you remember?
This wasn't backstage, but it was actually in the '90s, and wrestling was in Calgary. So we had a big barbecue at Brett's house after. And I remember Undertaker, he was like taking a nap on the couch. So all his kids were like poking him and like, just trying to wake him up. And then he did like the eye roll back thing.
Oh, really?
And we all ran off. So
The
yeah.
scariest guy back in the day.
Yeah. And I was terrified of Paul Bearer, and he would never break character. He always talked to us in that voice.
Hmm. I have a memory of Paul Bearer as well. He did a local show. We're from just outside of New Toronto here, and I saw him sitting in the bleachers with Henry Godwin. This must have been about 1995, and I went up and I was waving at him. I was in public school and didn't even break character. Pulled the Paul Bearer voice out. He told me, "Go sit down, kid," and I was just, "Oh, see you later." So yeah, Paul Bearer terrified me as well as a child. We
Yeah,
will have to set up a support group for each other here because I still get traumatized from the pallbearer yelling back in '95.
that's funny.
And we did mention Macho Man, fantastic match that your father had with the Macho Man at the Wrestling Classic pay-per-view. It's definitely one that I always recommend people to watch. Is that got to be up there for some of your favorite matches as well?
Yes, it definitely is. Even though, it's pretty short, but I mean, it's Macho Man. He's one of my all-time favorites. So I'm like,
It must be special for you because you had that bond with him to watch that, right?
and then that was the first ever pay-per-view, right? So that
Yeah,
was,
the very first time they ever did pay-per-view.
yeah, so that's cool too.
Yeah, it's super cool. Your dad actually got showcased really well on that in that tournament as well.
Mhm.
You know,
Any
and
good
and
matches?
Yeah, I think he did 3 matches, a couple real fun ones, and of course, he stole the show. Seems to be a theme with your dad that he always stole the show every time he worked.
Yeah.
So of course, your dad is probably most remembered for his series of matches with Tiger Mask in Japan. These matches, they still hold up today. How much of a sense of pride do you get going back and watching these matches, just knowing the effect that they've had on so many people in the industry?
Yeah, I think those are my all-time favorites because even if you're not a wrestling fan and you just put it on and you see what those two are doing, you're absolutely captivated. So I'm
Yeah,
very,
they were like artists in the ring there, and I just think it's so amazing because some of these matches happened before we were born.
yeah.
And here you people are still studying them to this day, and I can't think of a lot of matches that hold up like that over so many
Exactly.
generations.
Hmm.
So I know a little bit earlier we mentioned a little bit of memorabilia, and I can see over your shoulder there the beautiful robe of your dad's. Do you have some stuff that you wouldn't mind showing off, or that you could talk about?
Yeah, there's stuff all over me and I'm on a laptop. So, I mean, yeah, there's the cape and vest.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I remember that. I'm like WrestleMania 4, I think he wore that one, and a couple
Yeah,
other really big events. Yeah, that's absolutely
we have
beautiful.
some Japan. These are some of his trophies
Oh,
from
nice.
Japan. There's a bunch more over here. Some more
Oh,
trophies.
that's so cool.
Yeah. And let's see, there's I could probably go and pick some things up actually.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, if you don't,
Like one
any,
second,
yeah, of course.
if you wouldn't mind. So we got some trunks
Oh,
here.
wow. Those are legendary.
Yeah. Got the blue dynamite ones.
Oh, wow.
We have Matilda's collar.
No way.
Let's see.
That's so cool.
It says Matilda on it somewhere. Oh, yeah, here.
No way. That's a
1988, it says.
wow. That's so cool. I didn't know that those things were still around.
Yeah. I have his first ever ring gear, or his first ever robe. Let's see. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, wow. I didn't see him wear that one a whole lot. That's a really rare piece. That
There's
looks like
act-
in great shape.
there's actually no pictures of him wearing it. So it was in like England when he first started coming around.
Also really young, before he
I
even came
couldn't
to
even
North
quote a
America.
year. Yeah, he was so young because there's not even any footage of it, but it's in
That's
perfect condition.
I'm so impressed by like the pristine condition that all of that stuff is still in too. Wow.
I have this long sleeved All Japan t-shirt that
Oh,
I wear it to bed.
that's fantastic. Looks comfortable.
Yeah, and it's quite small, so I don't even know if it fit him. And if it did, he's like busting out of it for sure.
Maybe he planned it that way, show off the
I have
physique.
this old. This is like an original.
Yeah, that's a famous one too.
Not
That's
even the red dye ran on the white, but it's OG, so I got to keep it.
of course. Getting me jealous over here.
I have some random little. This is a Stampede wrestling pin.
Nice.
Gave me like they sold these pins. A buddy of mine, he's a tattoo artist who's a really big wrestling fan, and people just always gift him wrestling stuff. So someone gave him this, and he gave it to me.
Oh, wow. That's really nice. That's a really rare piece too. You don't see a lot of Stampede Wrestling memorabilia or merchandise around.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I guess pins were the big thing back in the day.
This is a funny little card from my dad and Davy. You see it?
Yeah. Has he got a pipe in his mouth?
But yeah, they're dressed like Popeye. Have you never seen that photo shoot?
No, I haven't seen the Popeye photo shoot. I'll have to look that up.
You should look it up. It's
Well,
just a
that's
ridiculous photo shoot.
that's really cool. That's some
I have
really
some
cool
other
stuff.
things if you want me to keep them.
Oh yeah, I could watch you show this stuff off forever.
I don't know if you guys if, like you have these or have seen these.
I've seen those ones before. Yeah, yeah, those are really
Yeah,
nice.
this
Is that little
one's
Matilda in there too?
yeah.
Wow. There you go.
So that, and then I have the solo ones of my dad.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen those ones in a long time.
And then there's one more that I have.
Oh, that one's cool with the shirt too.
I
Wow.
have the matching Davy to this as well, but
Oh, nice.
oh, that's about it, I think. for
That's
now.
awesome. We'll have to make sure not to show this out too much. We don't want the WWE calling and trying to bully you out of taking all this stuff for their hidden treasure show.
Right.
So I guess we'll kind of move on a little bit here, a little bit more. Brett started training a bunch of people, in the '90s. There, guys that went on to be really big names, and I know you got from doing my research, you had a little bit of interaction with some of these guys. Do you have any memories of hanging out with Edge or Christian? I'm pretty sure I read from one of your prior interviews that you're really close with Tess.
Yeah, so they all lived with us in my mom's house. So she was, after my dad left, she was a single mom going to university to become a teacher. So we had an undeveloped basement in our house and she just rented it out to the wrestlers like super cheap rent. It was like $25 a night or something like that while they were training here in Calgary. So yeah, Edge, Christian, and Test, and there were some other guys that I can't quite remember, but they were here and I really developed a relationship with Test. He was like a big brother to me. The other guys I didn't see as much. They would just work out and come home to sleep. But Test was like driving me to school and there was people talking like bullying me and he's like gonna come down to my school. So yeah,
That's really
I miss him.
Yeah, you always hear he's another guy that you hear so many great stories about. I think he was a Toronto guy as well. He was around our area. Another one gone way too soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. So my mom had a sister brother relationship with him as well.
Oh, nice,
So they even
nice.
after he made it, they still visited whenever they'd be in town. We'd be backstage visiting him. And my little
Oh,
brother
that's
and
cool.
sister from my mom's second marriage, they're twins. And I have a picture of Test holding the two babies
Oh,
when
really? Oh,
they were,
that's so cool.
yeah.
Oh, that's nice to hear. That's nice. I always love hearing good stories about Tess because he was another guy, and he was so talented in the ring. He could move so fast for how big he was.
And the funniest story I have about him was some of my girlfriends were over. We're in junior high. And my one friend puts on his wrestling boots because they were like at the front door. And he was a big guy. So these boots like went over our knees and she's just like stomping around in them. And then he walked in and she was like, ah, jumped out of the boots. And we're like, yeah, we weren't touching your boots.
So sorry, sir.
And they used to eat, him and the wrestlers would just eat like huge bowls of salad. Like,
Oh, really?
just grab a big bowl and they just make a salad in there. Like that's what they ate all the time.
No kidding.
Probably
I
meat
guess,
as well, but
yeah, probably a lot of chicken in there, right?
hmm
Um, okay, so I got to talk to you about this here. I've got something here. I've got one of my favorite books of all time.
yeah.
I really think that this one and Brett's book, I think, are the two best wrestling books that have ever been written. Maybe Mick Foley's as well, but those are my big three here. Um, when was the first time that you read your dad's book, and how was it reading it for you? Because your dad doesn't pull any punches in this book. It's pretty straightforward and to the point.
Yeah. So I can't quite remember what year it came out. Do you know?
I think it was really early 2000s,
Yeah, because
maybe
I remember, yeah,
2000 to 2004, somewhere in there.
yeah. So I think I was in high school, and I remember it took me a little bit of time to read it because I was scared, and I read it, and I only read it the once just because I don't know. It took a lot to get there
Yeah.
to be able to read it, but it's really good, and I do want to read it again, so it's more fresh in my memory. It's just, it's hard when your dad moves away and reading
No,
their story,
100%.
but I really enjoyed reading it because I could hear his accent, and it's like him telling the story, right? And it's really true to his story, like you said, and straight to the point. So, and his fans really like it. So,
Yeah, it helped me gain a lot more respect, seeing that side of the business. At the time, I didn't have a clue. Not that I'm in the business either, so I really don't have a clue about it. But your dad has this credibility that really comes through in the book. Like, he tells it like it is, the good times, the bad times, and that's something that you really have to respect for sure.
and it's very true to his story. So that's important.
Absolutely. And you kind of just mentioned that you did go a long time without seeing your dad, and obviously that's got to be very difficult. How is it that you got back in contact with your dad? Because I know that you guys got to be close again towards the end there.
Yeah. So when my dad left, I was 7. And the last time I had seen him, I was 10 because I actually flew out to England for the summer with my little brother. We stayed with my dad. And then, so fast forward to 10, the next time I actually saw him I was 24 or 25. So 15 years. And I just showed up on his doorstep. That's when Facebook kind of became a big deal. And I reconnected with my family in England. And I was talking with my cousin, Craig. And I'm like, yeah, I want to come out there, but like, I just don't know if I'm gonna have the guts to go see my dad. But like, I want to. So we'll just see what happens when I go. So when I went and it was like the second day, I was like, yep, let's do this. Take me to see my dad. And I just showed up on his doorstep.
Wow. Wow. And how was that? Was it obviously very emotional, like did you guys kind of fall back right into place? Was it how was your dad at that time?
I had major anxiety going up to the door. Um, I was like shaking, and the first door I went to was actually the wrong door. It was on the wrong side of the building. So then when I went to the correct door, I told my cousin, I'm like, you have to come with me because that first time I was just shaking and I couldn't like get it together after. And he's like, okay, I'll come with you. So yeah, he came up with me and he's really, really tall. So I was just like standing behind him. And my dad's wife opened up the door and she saw him. And my dad hadn't seen my cousin Craig for a long time. So Dot was like, oh, wow, come on in. She knew who he was. And then I kind of popped out from behind and she knew who I was and was like, oh my God, like, come in, come in. So walked me into the living room where my dad was sitting and I just broke down crying. It was like super emotional, but he was so happy and he was like, "Why are you crying?" Like, "Cuz I haven't seen you for a long time." So then I stopped because I was like I didn't want to seem like a baby. And he was just so happy.
Oh, that's nice. I like to hear that too because I you always hear these things about your dad that he was just like this miserable person towards the end, and I don't believe all of that. It's nice to hear how happy he is to see you and you guys are reconnecting. So what's it like going forward? You know, you guys fall back into place just like nothing missed a
So
beat.
that trip I whenever I would go, I would only stay for a week because I had a toddler back home. So I could only do a week. Which isn't a lot of time to visit when you're overseas, but
Mm.
so that trip I just started coming every day and every day I'd stay a little longer because we had to get to know each other again. And so by like the third or fourth day, and I know that my trip's coming to an end. I was gonna go to the mall. My cousin was gonna drive me to the big shopping center there. We started driving, and I just started crying, and I was like, I know my time's coming to an end with my dad. Like, and he's like, do you want me to take you back to your dad's? And I was like, yeah. So I just wanted to spend the day with him. And that was the day in the dark side interview that they showed that I pulled up the chair and I sat right next to him, and we both just started crying.
Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice. How was your dad in the later years? Was he still watching wrestling at all? Did you guys talk and did he tell you any stories from his time in the industry?
So he just had like basic cable and wasn't very technology savvy, but sometimes World of Sport would be on. That's old wrestling from
Yeah,
he was a young
that's
lad.
where he started, right?
Yeah.
The
So
round.
sometimes that would be on and he could still remember names and details. The second time I came, I brought a laptop and I brought like a DVD player and I brought all my wrestling DVDs because I have a bunch of Best of Dynamite Kid in Japan, Best of British Bulldogs in Japan. So we were watching all those and he was like, this is my first time seeing this since I've been in it. I'm
Wow.
like, that's crazy. And he could call all the spots. He remembered like all the detail.
Really?
Yeah. And my cousin Harry was actually there at that time because he was wrestling for WWF or sorry. And so he came over as well and he was with us watching those wrestling DVDs and Harry just loved it. We were
Wow,
like
that's so cool.
bonding over it.
Did your dad give Harry some good advice at all, or were you?
I'm not too sure if he gave him advice. You'd have to ask Harry, but but we had a
Well,
good time watching those matches together.
I would assume just sitting there and watching that you're under the learning tree no matter what, right?
So he was, he I think it was the second time I went, my dad had some strokes. So each time I went, he talked less and less. But it was like he could understand and acknowledge and yeah, kind of say yes, or he couldn't talk a lot, but
Mm. You
he
know, something your dad's name came up a lot during a tragedy, and I thought it was kind of unfair too, with the whole Chris Benoit stuff. Your dad's name came up a whole lot because obviously Chris was so influenced by your dad. Did your dad ever talk about anything like that? Anything about Chris at all?
I think he just mentioned it. He's like, yeah, they blame me for that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, Dad. Like,
It's ridiculous. Why?
yeah,
Like,
that's all he really said about it.
so a little bit later on in the show here, after we air the interview, I'm going to be doing a countdown of your dad's top 7 moments of all time. Do you have any personal favorite career moments from your dad?
I think WrestleMania 2 with Ozzy Osbourne
Yeah,
is one of
that's so
my
cool.
favorites. And like, what was one we already mentioned? No, I just had it and I lost it in my head. Oh, the match with Macho Man.
Mhm.
and I think it was April 21st, 1983, against Tiger Mask. I believe that was the date at the Sumo Hall show.
Yeah.
The first ever 5-star match
Yeah, yeah.
labeled from Meltzer. So that match is probably my all-time favorite.
Yeah, that's on my top favorite matches of all time as well. For me, a personal favorite match of your dad's, because I'm a huge fan of tag team wrestling. I've
Me
always
too.
it's so like it's so underutilized today, and I hope that they keep pushing into the main event spot again. That's why I like AEW so much. Like you, they focus on it really well. Your dad and Davey against Joe and Dean Malenko.
Yes.
They're just such a clinic that those
Japan.
guys put on in Japan. Yeah, all Japan. I think 89, I want to say would be my guess. So that's my personal favorite, one of my favorite tag team matches of all time, not just of your father, but
Yeah,
that one for me is definitely high on the list.
I love that.
So I before we kind of start wrapping up on this, I'd love to talk to you just a little bit about Dark Side of the Ring. A couple weeks ago, your dad's episode aired. How did you first hear about this project, and what were your first thoughts about it?
So I think the producers reached out to my mom at first, and they had got her number from Martha Hart, or some kind of connection there. Martha got her number from Dallas Hart, which is Brett's son,
Hmm.
and passed it along, something like that. But and then so my mom wrote me saying, "Hey, Darkside wrote me, and they want to do an episode on your dad, and how would you guys feel about it?" And we are such fans of the show; we've watched every single episode, so we were like, "Yeah, of course we want to do it."
Yeah, I think with Darkseid, they do such a good job of being honest, but they don't just dig for dirt. I know the title's called Darkseid, but they don't try. It's not like a trash piece or something like that, right? There's a lot of similarities I find with your dad's book. It's just brutally honest, right?
Yeah, it's a nice balance of things. It's not just
Mhm.
all dark, or they're trying to show the human side of him.
Yeah, and
As
they had some beautiful moments they showed. The scene where your mom's talking about walking in the snow with him is I just thought was so beautiful and well shot as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So how did you get involved with it then? Did they contact you? Did your mom contact you, I guess you said?
Yeah, my mom said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" And I said yes. And so then I think they emailed me originally. And then while my mom and sister, or sorry, my mom and I were like, "Yeah, we're doing this." We were waiting for them to come to Calgary to film it because COVID was going on, so it was going to be a while. And then my sister was like, she just piped in and was like, "Yeah, I want to be a part of it too." And that was really huge for her because she's never really talked about my dad in public, so it was
Mhm.
a huge step and really healing for her.
Oh, that's really nice. And
Yeah.
what was the overall filming experience like for you? Were you happy with how you were portrayed in the show? Were you happy with the stories that they chose from it?
Yeah, it was a really good experience. We enjoyed. So my sister and I filmed the one day together, and then my mom filmed the next day separately, just because of COVID again, and they kind of split us all up. But and after we went out for dinner and like celebrated, we're like, we did it. And then we just had to wait for like 6 months until it came out because we weren't sure, how it was going to turn out. But we were really happy with it.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. And do you think that they did like a good job of picking people to talk about your dad, like throughout the documentary?
Yes, I think. Well, they did. There's a couple of questionable ones. Of course, everyone has something to say about Rougeau, but it
Yeah.
seemed like it had to be done because otherwise it would have just been everyone like talking nicely about my dad. So they needed that little bit of negative. It is Dark Side of the Ring after all. So Lance, he just had like one sentence, and that was kind of weird. But
Yeah, I thought that was really random. Yeah, I didn't
I
know
think they were
there's
just in Calgary and they needed someone else to say something bad about him. So they're like, "Hey, Lance."
I for me, like yeah, you mentioned Jacques Rougeau there, and I thought that they took too much focus of the show on that one incident. Like I thought that there was a lot more that they could have talked about other than, obviously it's a big moment and I get it and it's a ratings grabbing story, but I really thought that they focused more time than needed to be on the Jacques part.
Yeah, I think that's kind of all they had to go on for like being a big story. So um they needed that bit of dark side. So
I guess the name, right?
yeah.
So what are your overall impressions on the entire show though, and even leading up to watching it, how are you feeling leading up to the show airing and how do you feel after seeing the show?
I had a lot of anxiety waiting for it to come out because immediately when I was done filming, I was like, "Oh, I should have said this, I should have said that." Like I didn't tell enough positive because of course they're controlling the interview, so they're asking the questions. And they gave me my questions before, but I was like, well, I don't want to like memorize my answers because I want to be natural.
Yeah.
But then I felt like I kind of stumbled and like gave them what they wanted, like kind of the negative stuff. I wanted to be more prepared. I was like, I should have said this, I should have said that. Like I felt like I didn't say enough positive because I really love my dad and I really want to protect his image as well. So,
Mhm.
but after it came out, we got to watch it a few days early before it aired on TV. They emailed it to us. So, and I was like, I need a few days to process this. I wasn't really sure how I felt because I was just like, oh, the whole world is going to see this. And again, I love my dad. I don't want him to come across like an asshole. So when it aired on Thursday and I started reading all the comments people were saying, even though I tried to, of course, stay away from that, it's hard, but
Yeah, of
it was
course.
98% positive. So I was like, you know what? I think we did what we wanted to do. We just wanted to have a message about, CTE and noticing the signs of brain trauma, pain, wrestling in pain day in and day out, and that he wasn't always like this. So
Yeah, I thought that was really nice, your mom defending him at the end there, and mentioning the CTE, and I really wish that they would have focused on that a little bit more, maybe cut, 10 minutes out of the Jacques Rougeau stuff, and talked about that more, because it's such a huge issue. And the flying headbutts and all the big bumps that your dad took, obviously that's definitely something that's there, right?
yeah, it's directly hitting your head and it's just so dangerous. And
Mhm.
there's another side of him, and that's really what we were trying to show. As a father to me, I have nothing but positive memories of him, and my story is a story about forgiveness and just how it's easier to forgive than be angry. It's easier to
I
forgive.
thought you came across really inspirational in the show, in all
Oh,
honesty. And
that's
yeah, well, and I can relate a little bit, because I also have grown up without my father in my life, right? And so just seeing, the reconnecting that you did, and for someone like me, that's inspirational, that, if you want to do that, then it's able to be done, and it's not this big, black X that needs to be done. So, I know that must have been very hard for you. So just someone who can relate to that on a personal level, thank you for having the courage to do that.
Oh, thank you so much. That means a lot. And my sister as well, I was so proud of her because they never really, I don't know if they quite told the story on Dark Side, but she never met my dad.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, they didn't really come out and straight up say it, but so for her to be able to, move on, move forward, forgive, and carry out his legacy, appreciate him, love him in front of the public, it was just really inspirational as well.
Absolutely. And your sister and your mom, were they all happy with the final product as well?
Yeah, they were super happy. My mom was really happy, and I'm really
Good.
proud of her as well because,
She was
she
a superstar in the show.
she was the main character, and my sister and I filmed first. So the next day we are like, Mom, it's all on you now. Like you have to put all the pieces together. And I think she did a really good job of doing that.
Yeah, your mom was absolutely fantastic in the show. I can't say enough good things about it too. I'm really happy, because I always get nervous watching stuff like this too. I just, I don't want them to just bury these people. They're human beings, and I'm glad that you guys showed the human side to them. I think it was beautiful how he always held your hand, stuff like that. I'm really glad that they showcased all of that. So I
Yeah,
was
they
really happy as a fan seeing it as well.
yes, and we've had lots of fans reaching out to us and saying like the same thing you just said to me, like that was really inspirational. Thank you. You guys are so brave and stuff like that. And so I think all those messages just showed that, we did a good job and
That's good. I'm
it
glad
turned
you're
out the
hearing
way we
that too.
wanted.
I think that's important to hear that, because what you guys did, and especially you, going to England and doing those meetings, that's really hard to do. So like, I hope that you're very proud, and know that you are a role model and inspiration to a lot of people out there.
Thank you. Yeah, that means a lot.
So you mentioned you did see some of the feedback. Anyone in the business reach out to you guys at all, or any family members reach out and say anything to you?
Chris Jericho reached out to me because he was the narrator on the episode, and he reached out to me before we saw it, and he was like, "Oh, I just kind of did a rough cut of the episode. I just wanted to let you know it's really good. I think you guys are gonna really like it. You're gonna be really proud." And I was like, "Okay, if Chris Jericho says it's good, like it must be good." And then he reached out to me after watching it, and he was like, "So what'd you think?" I can't remember if anyone. A lot of family members reached out to me, like Natty and TJ and Harry, and yeah, all the family.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really happy to hear that you guys all enjoyed the show. We enjoyed it as a fan, and I'm hoping that it opens up your dad to a whole new generation of people. With the WWE Network on YouTube. Hopefully they can really see the magic that he was in the ring. The number of people that he inspired. It's not just Chris Benoit. There's Davey Richards, any light heavyweight. Mick Foley was really kind words about your dad in the show. So I'm hoping that will continue. I'm hoping the momentum. I know that you guys have a store for your dad. Would you like to plug any of that so where people can get some merchandise for of your
Yeah,
dad's?
we have our pro wrestling tees store, and then another one is opening. We're just any day here now for on. It's Wrestle Merch Central, and that's in the UK. So that's going to be a lot easier for our UK fans to order T-shirts and not have to pay a ton for shipping. So I'm really excited for those designs to come out. We have one similar to this coming out actually.
Oh, nice.
Some fan art here that someone did. We kind of redid it, and that's going to be on the T-shirts. I'm really excited about that one.
Perfect. Perfect. And
And
any
then
social media? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I cut
oh,
you off.
Young Shop Dog, they're also coming out. I'll show you. They did this one on Bruiser Brody,
Oh,
Young Shop
nice.
Dog, and their Sofabee. It's a Sofabee line, which is like rubber.
Yeah.
So they're coming out with one right away here on my dad as well. So
Oh,
really
fantastic.
excited about that.
Perfect. Perfect. And how about
Keep it
yourself?
up.
Do you have any social media of yourself that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Bronwyn Jewel and then Twitter at Dynamite Doll 84.
Awesome. Well, I cannot thank you enough for doing this, and for what your family has done for the business, and you're doing a great job of carrying on your dad's legacy with what you're doing right now as well.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.